So, what if I told you that a sixth grade math lesson actually holds the key to a much deeper understanding of our faith? I know, it sounds a little unlikely, right? But today, we're going to dig into this really powerful idea how something as simple as data graphs can help tell God's story and, believe it or not, completely transform how we think about our kids' education. The Apostle Paul, he really doesn't mince words in Romans 8. He kicks it off with this incredibly stark warning that just forces you to stop and ask, okay, what is my mind really set on? Is it worldly things or is it something so much more? And really, that's the core question for all of us, isn't it? We all see the chaos that a worldly focus can bring. So what does the opposite, a spiritual focus, actually look like? And I mean, how on earth do we bring that promised life and peace into something like a classroom? Well, before we can even start to talk about a solution, we have to be really honest about the problem. And in today's world, especially in education, that problem is so often a huge focus on knowledge without any wisdom. It's such a simple idea, but we see it playing out all around us, every single day. When we teach our kids the what without the why, or the how without ever asking, should we, we're basically setting them up for a world of hurt. Yeah, the danger here is so clear. We can fill our kids' heads with tons of facts and skills, but if that knowledge isn't anchored to something greater, something true, well, we end up with people who are clever enough to build rockets, but they don't have the wisdom to build a peaceful world. And that's the real tragedy of an education that's cut off from a spiritual foundation. But what if there's a better way? It all starts with a pretty simple shift in how we look at things. A commitment to seeing the whole story, not just a bunch of isolated facts. And here it is. This is the brilliant idea at the heart of it all, taken straight from a sixth grade math lesson. The analogy is so simple, but it's really profound. Think about it. Just like you need Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John to get a complete picture of Jesus, you actually need different kinds of graphs to truly understand a set of data. A single perspective is just never enough. Okay, so let's see this in action. We're going to walk through the actual examples from this lesson to see just how a simple math concept can unlock a really deep spiritual truth. So, imagine we're looking at the data from 5 different times Jesus fed the multitudes. We've got the number of leftover baskets collected each time: 12, 10, 14, 11, and 13. It's just a simple set of numbers. But how we choose to look at them completely changes what we see. Okay, first up, we could use a dot plot. This graph gives us the most direct, unfiltered view. Each one of those events gets its own dot on a number line. See, there's one for 10 baskets, one for 11, one for 12, and so on. You see every single miracle in all its unique detail. Nothing's hidden. Now, a box plot, this gives us a totally different perspective. It summarizes everything into one simple shape. It tells us, hey, the middle result, the median, was 12 baskets, and the outcomes ranged from a low of 10 to a high of 14. This view is fantastic for highlighting the overall consistency of God's provision. And finally, we've got the histogram. This one groups the data into different bins. So it could show us one bar for 10 to 11 baskets with a height of 2, because that happened twice, and another bar for 12 to 14 baskets with a height of 3. This view is great for revealing patterns and seeing which outcomes happen most frequently. So here's the big takeaway, the thing we absolutely have to get. No single graph tells the whole story. The dot plot, it showed us the individuality of each miracle. The box plot showed us the summary of God's provision. The histogram showed us the pattern of His abundance. To see the full, rich picture, you have to use all 3 perspectives together. And this doesn't just apply to miracles, it applies to our own lives too. Just imagine you tracked your daily Bible reading. A dot plot of your time in the Psalms might look kind of scattered, right? Reflecting those emotional highs and lows. But a histogram of reading Proverbs might show a really consistent daily pattern of seeking wisdom. The right graph reveals the right truth about your spiritual walk. So it turns out this whole principle of combining different perspectives isn't just good math, it's a divine truth that's woven right into the fabric of Scripture itself. The wisdom of Ecclesiastes is just so clear and practical. Partnership, teamwork, they always yield a better result. And you know what? This isn't just true for people, it's true for ideas and perspectives too. And that's the beautiful connection right there. The exact same principle that makes a strong marriage or a successful church is what also makes a wise data analyst. When you combine perspectives, you get to a greater truth and you get a much better return for your intellectual labor. So, how does this all lead us back to where we started? How does understanding graphs and scripture together actually guide us to that promised life and peace for our children? We come right back to the promise that completes that verse. Being spiritually minded is all about seeing God's hand in everything. Yep, even in a math lesson. It's about connecting the dots between academic knowledge and divine wisdom. And that integration, that is what brings order and purpose and peace to learning. And this is the very mission of the Godly Learner series from HeroesMart Academy, which is exactly where this lesson comes from. The whole goal is to stop divorcing faith from facts, to intentionally weave biblical truth into every single subject, raising a generation that doesn't just know things, but knows what to do with them for the glory of God. So how do we restore wisdom to education? Well, this lesson shows us one powerful way. It starts by refusing to believe that any subject is truly neutral. It starts by believing that every graph, every equation, and every number can tell a piece of God's amazing story. The path to wisdom is right there. We just have to have the courage to walk it.